Ever walked into a store with a gun and immediately felt off? You understand that nagging feeling. Maybe it was the hype, the sales pitch, or it just felt right in the hand. Now it's sitting in your safe, untouched, never shot, never carried. I've been there more times than I'd care to admit. This is not a top 10 worst guns list. This is personal. These are the 10 guns I bought or almost bought, and that later made me realize I should have owned them all along. Alright, now let's kick this off with something most folks sleep on, the Beretta APX A1. Now I already know what some of you are thinking. Beretta? Isn't that just the M9 guys? Yep, the military workhorse, the old school sidearm. But this one, totally different animal. And the crazy part? Hardly anyone ever talks about it. I picked one up down in Houston after a buddy wouldn't shut up about it. I'm gonna be real with you, I didn't expect much. But the first few mags in, I had to stop and just laugh. Smooth cycling, controllable recoil, and the trigger, man, better than most striker-fired guns in its class. Flat-faced, crisp break, short reset. Glock should take notes here. The ergonomics are what surprised me most. That frame, it just locks in the hand. No awkward angle, no blocky feel. It's like Beretta actually listened to shooters for once. Add in the aggressive slide serrations and optics-ready cut, and suddenly you've got a gun that feels modern, not recycled. And here's the kicker: price point. You're not paying Gucci gun money. Most shops have it around the mid $400. That's ridiculous for the kind of performance you're getting. Look, it may not be flashy, and it doesn't get the same cult following as a Glock or SIG, but I'll tell you this. Every single person I've let run mine walked away surprised. It's one of those pistols you overlook until you shoot it, and then it sticks in your head. So yep, Beretta might not be topping the YouTube charts with this one, but the APX A1, quietly, it's one of the best underrated 9mm you can snag in 2025. And trust me when I say, the next pistol I'm going to talk about, it only gets spicier. I'll be honest, the first time I picked up the Ruger American pistol, I didn't expect much. It felt like holding a brick with a trigger, chunky grip, blocky slide, and none of that sleek, sexy look you get with a Glock or a SIG. Even some buddies at the range laughed, calling it the SUV of pistols. Not exactly a confidence booster, but here's the thing. Once I sent a few rounds down range, my opinion flipped. The recoil, softer than I expected. The trigger, a little stiff at first, sure, but it broke clean and reset fast enough to keep me smiling. That clunky frame suddenly made sense. It soaked up recoil like a sponge, letting me keep sights on target without fighting the muzzle. One day, a buddy with a Glock 17 wanted to run a side-by-side test. We swapped, shot a few mags each, then looked at our targets. My Ruger groupings were tighter and cleaner. He just stared at the paper, then the gun, and finally said, "Huh, didn't see that coming." Neither did I, buddy. It's not the prettiest pistol, and it won't win any points in a gunshot beauty contest, but in a real-world setting, dirty hands, long sessions, even one drop in the mud, it'll keep running without a hiccup. Reliable, steady, and surprisingly accurate. Sometimes the guns that look the least impressive end up teaching you a valuable lesson. The Ruger American happens to be one of them. Written off as clunky, maybe, but once you actually shoot it, it just might change your mind. I picked up the Canic TP9 Elite SC with zero expectations going in. Honestly, I just wanted a cheap backup I wouldn't cry over if it stayed in the glove box. Everyone talks about Canic being the poor man's Walther, so I figured, fine, let's see if this thing even runs. First couple of mags? Meh. The slide felt stiff, the grip was short enough to make my pinky cry, and the trigger? Well, not terrible, but not blowing my mind either. I almost tossed it in the box and wrote it off as another good-for-the-money pistol. But then I actually trained with it, and that's where it clicked. This little subcompact points naturally faster than it should. The recoil impulse, shockingly manageable. The factory sights are clean and crisp, and the trigger, once broken in, breaks lighter than some guns double its price. It digested everything I fed it, from steel case junk to my favorite hollow points, without even flinching. The crazy part? I started trusting it. This was supposed to be my throwaway gun. Instead, it's sitting on my nightstand. It vanishes under the waistband, carries like it's not even there, and when I actually need it, yep, I believe it'll do its job. It still feels weird admitting this, but the budget Canic punched way past a few of my serious guns. It may not be pretty and fancy, but every time I pick this baby up, I remember why I kept it. Because it just plain works. You ever look at a gun and swear it's watching you back? That is the Mada Slim. It sat there on the counter, low profile, no frills, like it knew something I didn't. Polymer frame, striker fired, optics ready. Nothing flashy, but that's the trick, isn't it? The more ordinary it looks, the more dangerous it probably is. I picked it up, lightweight, slim grip. The kind of pistol you could carry all day and forget it's even there until you need it. The slide pulled smooth, trigger reset snapped sharp. Too sharp. The kind of sharp that reminds you this thing wasn't made to sit in a display case. And then the weird part. The guy behind the counter leaned over and said, "You'd be surprised how many people come back for this one, not because it breaks, but because they swear it's unsettling." Unsettling? That's a word you don't expect when you're buying a carry gun. He said folks would dry fire it, holster it, and later claimed they couldn't shake the feeling they were still holding it, like muscle memory refused to let it go. Maybe it's just the size. Compact, easy, ready to disappear under a shirt. Maybe it's the fact that it holds 13 rounds when something this small should hold half that. Or maybe it's because when you handle it, you realize you're running out of excuses. This isn't supposed to be here. Not at this price, not with these features, not with this presence, but it is. And the Mada Slim doesn't care if it makes your skin crawl. I wasn't supposed to like this one. Honestly, I rolled my eyes when a buddy handed it over to me. FNF509 Compact MRD, he said, like it was a big deal. I'd heard the hype. Optics ready, compact, supposedly a beast in a small package, yeah. I've seen a lot of small guns promise the world and underdeliver. First mag, I wanted to toss it across the range. The trigger felt gritty, the slide had more resistance than it should, and the grip, weirdly blocky. I was ready to write it off and move on. But then I mounted the dot and everything changed. The gun transformed from awkward to absurdly capable. Recoil flattened out, muzzle stayed dead on, and I was drilling targets faster than I thought possible. That little red dot, a revelation. Controls fell naturally under my hands. It ran dirty ammo like it didn't even notice. I went through 3 mags without a single hiccup, and I found myself whispering, "Okay, you might actually be worth something." Here's the kicker. I almost wanted to hate it. It's compact, modern, and could have been just another optics-ready novelty, but it's not. It's reliable, it's consistent, and it's one of those guns that makes you rethink your carry setup without trying to impress anyone. My buddy, the same guy who swore by 1911s and scoffed at polymer, quietly nodded after shooting a few mags. That's when I knew. This little MRD isn't just hype, it's a serious shooter hiding in plain sight. Now, I grab this more than my usual carry when I want a no-nonsense, get-it-done-right gun. It doesn't look flashy, it doesn't beg for likes, but it quietly outperforms the more expensive and prestige guns when nobody's watching. And that's the part I respect the most. This one, Yeah, it got under my skin. I first saw the Hellcat Pro on a counter and thought, cute, probably all hype. Slim, micro compact, crazy high capacity, sounded like marketing trying to sell me a fantasy. I picked it up, felt the slide, squeezed the trigger, and shrugged. Light, small, probably soft. First mag at the range, reality check. The recoil wasn't there. Not harsh, not snappy, just manageable, flat. The grip, perfect, surprising for a micro. The trigger, crisp, clean, and honest. I ran another mag and started noticing something weird. This little gun was doing things that my bigger, more expensive pistols struggled with. Tight groups, fast follow-ups, confidence I didn't expect from something that fits in a pocket. Then came the real test. I carried it for a week, everywhere. Pocket, bag, concealed. No fatigue, no weird grip shifts, just reliable. By day 4, I caught myself thinking about leaving my usual carry at home. The Hellcat Pro was faster to deploy, easier to control, and still had more rounds than any other micro I'd carried. It's not flashy, it doesn't beg for attention, but it works so well that it almost makes you feel guilty. I watched a buddy, a full-size Glock loyalist by the way, shoot it and nearly dropped his jaw. No way that tiny thing just did that, he said. That's what gets me. The Hellcat Pro isn't trying to be sexy, and it's not about optics, bling, or even internet points. It's about doing its job quietly, effectively, and in a package that makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about micro compacts. And in a world full of overhyped guns, that's the part that makes you respected. I'll admit, I walked past the P10C for months. Another polymer striker fired, I thought. Sleek, tactical looking, plenty of hype online, but I've been burned before. Big claims, small results. Then, a buddy brought one to the range in Austin. I figured I'd humiliate it, give it a few rounds, nod politely, and just move on. The first mag? Shut up. Ni femi. The grip? Perfect. Not too thick, not too slim, just right. Texturing that actually helps, not punishes. Trigger? Smooth, crisp, with a reset that makes you grin like a maniac. Recoil, manageable, controlled. The gun wanted to stay on target, not hop around like a caffeinated rabbit. By the second mag, I was noticing groups tightening up faster than I expected. And the best part? It felt confident, like it knew it belonged there, rubbing elbows with guns twice its price. A neighbor, a Glock loyalist for life by the way, watched me run a few mags. He was quiet, just leaning against the barricade. I could see the gears turning. By the end, he muttered, "Okay, I see why people talk about this thing." By the fourth mag, I realized I hadn't blinked, hadn't cursed, hadn't adjusted my grip. The gun was just there, doing its job, quietly humiliating every overpriced striker fired I'd ever sworn by. I didn't need a red dot, didn't need flashy optics. The P10C just made me look good, made the shots feel easy, and left me staring at the target thinking, why did I doubt this thing? That's the kicker. It sneaks up on you, earns your respect without asking for it, and leaves you wondering why you ever cared about hype. I underestimated this thing. Big mistake. And now, I catch myself reaching for it more than some of the bigger names I used to swear by. The CZ P10C doesn't ask for attention, it earns respect, quietly, efficiently, and every single time you pull the trigger. Smith & Wesson. You hear that and you think polished marketing, overpriced hype, maybe a safe queen. Look, I get it. I've handled the polymer M&Ps. Some are fine. Some, you know what, let's not talk about the ones that made me question my life choices. So when a buddy of mine handed me the MP9 2.0 Compact metal, I was ready to groan. The first thing you notice is the weight. Solid, not cumbersome, but it tells you this is serious. You feel it in your hands and your brain goes, Oh, okay, you're not messing around. The slide moves like it was machined by someone who actually cared. No chalky plastic, no mushy nonsense. Grip texture, aggressive enough to tell your hand who's boss, but it doesn't shred you like a cheese grater. I ran the first mag cautiously. The trigger, snappy, clean break, short reset. I thought, maybe this isn't so bad. By mag 3, I was smiling. Mag 5, I almost laughed at how much smoother it felt than the $1,200 1911 sitting in my safe. My buddy, the die-hard polymer guy, borrowed it. 15 rounds later, he handed it back without a single joke. Just a nod, respect earned. I kept feeding it rounds, cheap stuff, hot stuff, everything in between. It didn't complain, didn't hiccup, and that's when I realized this isn't about looking pretty or even flexing on Instagram. This is about function, gritty, solid, and relentless in performance. Do you need it? Maybe not. Will it convert you? Probably. I walked in thinking I'd play it safe. I left questioning every polymer favorite I'd ever had. The FNF509 2.0 Compact metal may not be flashy or even trendy, but it's stubborn in the way that only a well-made metal pistol can be, and sometimes stubborn is exactly what you need in a gun. This one made me stop mid-mag and stare. Not because it looks different, it does, but that's the least impressive part. The PDP is built to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about striker-fired pistols. Grip angle finally feels right. Trigger, crisp, with a reset that slaps you awake. Recoil, tamed like it's been through some sort of anger management program. I ignored it at first, thought it was just another optic-ready wannabe, the kind of gun that gets talked about online but never gets real work done. Then I ran a few mags and I shut up real fast. It's like Walther studied every complaint about pistols in the past decade and said, yeah, we'll fix that. Everything clicks. Ergonomics, controls, balance. You don't notice it, you just shoot and it works. And when it doesn't, that's your mistake, not the gun's. A buddy of mine, sheriff's deputy in Harris County, carries one on duty. Says it's the first pistol he's felt confident with without fighting the gun every step of the way. And now I get it. I've defended my Glocks like a religion, but this, same reliability, same footprint, only smarter, smoother, and sharper. I tried real hard to find a flaw, but couldn't. I tried to break the rhythm, throw it off balance, nada. Shot until I ran out of excuses. The only reason I don't carry it daily? Pride. Admitting the PDP is better than your old standby means admitting you've been settling, and that's a fight I'm not ready to lose. Sorry. Everyone talks about polymer, lightweight, carry-friendly, this or that. I didn't care. Steel? Too heavy. Old school? Too slow. And then my buddy dropped an SP1 Tactical on the bench, big, black, and screaming classic. I scoffed. First few rounds, my hands ached. Recoil felt sharp, the slide wasn't light, the frame wasn't forgiving. I thought, yep, this is a relic. Pretty to look at, useless to carry. I almost handed it back, shaking my head. Then something changed. I ran another mag. The recoil flattened, the grip fit like it was carved for my hand. The trigger had that perfect blend of resistance and smoothness that told me this is serious. I kept shooting, annoyed that I was actually enjoying it. A neighbor, die-hard polymer fan who never touches steel, watched silently. After 3 mags, he muttered, "Okay, that's actually good." And he was right. It felt alive, precise, and unflinchingly reliable. It's not sleek or even trendy, doesn't need optics or red dots to impress either, but in its weight, its balance, its unapologetic steel construction, it teaches you respect, and it makes you rethink everything you assumed about polymer supremacy. I left the range conflicted. I hated admitting it, but I wanted one. Not because it was shiny or flashy, but because it proved that old school full steel guns could still school the new school shooters. The CZ75 SP1 Tactical doesn't care if you doubted it, it just shows up, performs, and quietly makes you eat your words. There was a guy in my old neighborhood who swore by his Rock Island Armory SDK100, drove a beat-up Ford Ranger, carried it every day, and wouldn't touch anything that cost more than a week's groceries. One afternoon, I asked why he trusted it when fancier options sat on the shelf. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Because it never quits on me." And that stuck with me. Back then, you could find an SDK100 for around $279, full size, 16+1 capacity, stainless slide, decent sights. No gimmicks, no optics, no flashy marketing. Just a solid hammer-down gun that kept running even after years stuffed in cheap holsters, tossed in the back of trucks, and ignored by anyone who judged it by looks. The trigger was gritty and the grip was basic, but you learn it, you adapt, and suddenly you're not noticing the flaws, you're noticing trust. Like a worn pair of boots you refuse to replace because they just work. And here's the bonus, the SDK100 still surprises. Even compared to pricier hyped up guns, it performs. People underestimate it, they laugh at the hybrid design, but when it matters, it doesn't fail. That kind of grit and reliability, that's what changes your mind about what a budget gun can really do. The Rock Island Armory SDK100 may not be flashy, and it doesn't have to be. It just shows up and works. So there you have it, amigos. The guns that made me rethink what a budget pistol can really do. Some of these surprised me, some challenged me, and a few even earned my respect in ways that I didn't even expect. They're not flawless, but then again, nothing is, but each one proved it can perform when it counts. So now it's your turn. Drop a comment and tell me which cheap handgun surprised you the most, or which one you carry and trust. I'm Steve, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So keep shooting smart and keep your eyes open, because you never know what you've been sleeping on.